Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to start with a little mental cinema. So I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Unless you are driving, of course.
Right. Unless you are driving, in which case please keep your eyes on the road. But otherwise, I want you to visualize a scene for me. It is the climax of a romantic movie.
Oh, I love these setups.
Yes, so the lighting is low. It has that perfect golden hour glow. And the camera pushes in really slowly on the lead actor. Let us say it is a young Brad Pitt type. Devastatingly handsome.
I am picturing it. It is the exact moment the audience has been waiting for the entire film.
Exactly. The music swells. The tension is palpable. He takes a deep breath. He parts his lips. And vividly clearly, with absolute emotional weight, he mouths 3 words.
And you just know what they are.
Yes, your brain, your heart, everything in you registers it immediately. I love you. You see it as clearly as if it were written in subtitles right across his chest.
Absolutely.
But here is the chaos. Here's the big twist. He didn't actually say that. The audio track was off. What he actually said was, he said elephant juice.
Elephant juice.
Elephant juice. And the really wild thing is, if you were looking in a mirror right now, and I genuinely want everyone listening to try this later, it looks terrifyingly identical to I love you.
It really, really does. It is bizarre.
Can you break down why that happens physically?
Yeah, sure. So just think about the shapes. Say elephant, your jaw drops for the E, right?
Yeah.
Then the tongue flicks up for the L, and then the lips come together for the P.
Okay, and then juice.
Right, juice. The lips purse forward in this tight little shape. Now try I love you. For I, the jaw drops.
Drops just like the E in elephant.
Exactly. Then love. The tongue flicks up for the L, and the lips come together for the V.
Just like the VH. Wow.
And then you, the lips purse forward again. It is a biological optical illusion, basically.
That is just incredible. And this anecdote actually comes from the 11-year-old daughter of Richard Williams.
The author of the book we are exploring today.
Yes, exactly. She brought this little trick home from school one day, and it completely blew his mind because it perfectly illustrates the fundamental problem and the magic of the topic we are covering today. Dialogue.
Specifically, we are doing a deep dive into chapter 15 of the Animator's Survival Kit.
Written by the legendary Richard Williams.
Right, and this chapter is simply titled Dialogue, but honestly, it should probably be titled Everything You Think You Know About How People Speak is a Complete Lie.
It is so true, because the elephant juice example, it proves that speech isn't just about sound, it's about visual ambiguity.
It is about interpretation.
Right. And if you are an animator or a puppeteer or just someone who wants to understand why some CGI characters look totally dead inside while others feel so alive, this chapter is essentially the holy grail.
It really is a masterclass in observation. And our mission for this deep dive is actually pretty specific. We want to move way beyond what animators call lip flapping.
Lip flapping, which honestly sounds like a weird medical condition you do not want to talk about at a dinner party.
I mean, it is worse than that in the animation world. It is the default setting for really bad animation. It is when a character's jaw just sort of opens and shuts rhythmically to the beat of the audio like a wooden trap door.
Yeah, like a nutcracker.
Exactly. What Williams is teaching here is the actual mechanics, the physics, and the pure artistry of making a static drawing actually appear to speak and think and breathe.
And we are going to cover everything today. From the anatomy of the jaw, which is surprisingly misunderstood, by the way, to the physics of timing.
And we will get to that ultimate secret passed down from one of Disney's 9 old men.
Milk call, right?
Yes, milk call. And it involves, of all things, a sock puppet.
A sock puppet changing the face of high-end animation. I cannot wait to get into that. But before we get to the high-level secrets, we have to start where Williams starts.
We have to go back to school. Literally.
Yes, because he opens this entire chapter with a story about his 6th grade teacher. And I think this woman gave him lifelong trauma.
But she gave us the absolute perfect example of how not to animate.
Right, the school teacher mistake. I love this story because I feel like we have all met this exact woman.
Oh, definitely.
So imagine Richard Williams as a kid. He has this wildly enthusiastic teacher. She has this incredibly wide mouth, huge teeth, and she wears this super bright red lipstick.
She is basically a walking caricature of articulation.
She is the absolute enemy of naturalism. Every morning she makes the class stand up and recite things.
But she doesn't just want them to say the words, right?
No, she wants them to perform the vowels and the consonants. She would make them say very slowly and deliberately, movable lips.
Movable lips.
But the way she did it, she was just exploding every single letter.
Good morning to you. We're all in it to please.
It sounds like she was trying to fire the alphabet out of a cannon.
That is exactly what it was like. And the reason Williams highlights this, aside from the fact that it was obviously terrifying for him as a child, is is that a lot of novice animators do exactly this.
They really do. They look at a breakdown of a word, let us say the word movable, and they think, okay, well, I need an M shape, then an U shape, then a V shape.
Right, then an A shape and then a B shape. They try to draw every single phonetic sound with equal mechanical emphasis.
It's like machine gun articulation put to coup.
Exactly. And the result is that the character looks like they are having some sort of facial spasm or like they are a robot running low on battery.
Because real people, unless they are really condescending news anchors or that specific sixth grade teacher, do not talk like that.
No, they don't.
So what is the reality then? If we don't articulate every single letter, what are we actually doing with our mouth?
We are smudging. That is the exact term Williams uses, and I think it is brilliant. In reality, everyday speech is just a slurry. You smudge from one word shape right into the next.
Smudging. Yep, that makes perfect sense. If I say good morning to you right now, I am not finishing the D in good, hitting a hard stop, and then resetting my entire mouth to start the M in morning.
Not at all.
The end of good is already just bleeding into the start of morning.
Precisely. You have to think of it like a musician. If you are playing a really fast, complex passage on a piano, say a run of 16th notes, you don't hammer every single note with the exact same weight and duration.
Right, if you did, it would sound like a computer file. It would sound totally mechanical.
It would lack flow completely. A real musician blurs over the little connecting notes to hit the main beats. They phrase the music, and human speech is exactly the same.
We don't articulate every syllable.
Yeah.
We just flow over the little connective tissue to get to the real meat of the sentence.
So the biggest takeaway for section 1 is phrasing.
Phrasing is everything. So an animator shouldn't be thinking about letters at all.
No, they shouldn't be thinking H-E-L-L-O. They need to be thinking about the word shape, or really even the sentence shape.
And Williams points out that some people, when they talk, hardly move their lips at all anyway. They are natural minimalists.
Right, so if you take a minimalist character and you animate them exploding on every single consonant like the scary school teacher, it looks completely bizarre. It breaks the reality of that specific character.
It is the difference between reading a dictionary out loud and having an actual conversation. So rule number 1 is do not be the scary 6th grade teacher. Smudge your words.
Smudge the words, yes. However, and this is where we really have to pivot to the technical side of things, just because we smudge the words doesn't mean we can just ignore anatomy.
Right, we can't just draw a blurry line and call it a mouth.
Exactly. In fact, because we are smudging, the underlying anatomy that we do show has to be 100% accurate. If it isn't, the whole illusion just falls apart instantly.
So let us unpack that anatomy then, because there is one specific rule here that Williams calls the skeleton rule. And once you hear it, you realize just how many cheap Saturday morning cartoons got this horribly wrong.
It is genuinely the most fundamental fact of the human skull, and yet it is the one rule most frequently broken by bad animation.
What is it?
The upper teeth are anchored to the skull. They do not move relative to the head, ever.
I am actually doing a self-check right now. I moved my jaw around. Yep, my top teeth are completely fused to my brain pan. They're not going anywhere.
Exactly. The skull is essentially one solid piece of bone. The only moving part is the mandible, the lower jaw. It hinges down. That is it.
But you see this mistake in bad animation all the time. The trash can lid effect.
Yes, the trash can lid, where the top of the head stays perfectly still, but the upper lip and the top teeth just flap upward while the bottom jaw flaps downward.
It looks like the character's face is literally splitting in half.
It is deeply disturbing once you actually notice it. It is like their whole face is unzipping.
And in real humans, it is physically impossible.
Right. Now, obviously, if you tilt your head back to laugh, your top teeth move in space because your entire head is moving.
Yeah.
But the relationship between your top teeth and your eyes, that distance is completely fixed. It never, ever changes.
Unless you have a very serious injury.
Right, which is a completely different genre of movie altogether. But generally speaking, the animator absolutely must respect that anchor. The lower jaw does all of the work. It rotates slightly, it slides, the top jaw just sits there.
Williams also mentioned something really interesting about character design here regarding teeth. He says most people feature either their top teeth or their bottom teeth when they talk, but rarely both equally.
That is such a brilliant observation of real human character. Just think about the people you know. Some people are top teeth talkers.
Like a rabbit, maybe?
Yeah, like a rabbit, or maybe the stereotype of a very posh, upper-class British character. Oh, hello, how are you? You see those front two incisors really clearly.
And then on the other side, you have the bottom teeth talkers.
Right, maybe a bulldog type character. Or a tough guy with an underbite. Listen here, see? You see that whole bottom row of teeth.
And it really helps define the character design.
It does. If you show both rows of teeth chattering away constantly, the character looks like a nutcracker. It looks super mechanical and honestly kind of aggressive.
Okay, so we have the jaw figured out. The hinge is clear. Now we have to talk about the thing inside the jaw. The muscle that does all the heavy lifting.
The tongue.
Yes, the tongue.
The tongue is an absolute nightmare for animators. It really, truly is.
Why, though? I mean, it seems simple enough. It's just a pink blob, right?
It is a nightmare because it is way too fast. It is the fastest muscle we use in human speech. And Williams has a really strict absolute rule here. He says never in between the tongue.
Okay, for the non-animators listening, we should probably define what an in-between actually is.
Good call. So in animation, you have your key poses. Let us say frame 1 is the tongue down flat, and frame 5 is the tongue up touching the roof of the mouth.
Okay.
The in-betweens are the drawings in frames 2, 3, and 4 that bridge that gap to make the movement look smooth.
And usually smoothness is a good thing, right? You want an arm to move smoothly.
Yes, you want an arm or a head turn to be smooth. But not the tongue.
Not the tongue.
Not the tongue. If you draw the tongue floating in the middle of the mouth en route to the roof of the mouth, it looks completely wrong. Williams says it looks like a piece of liver flapping around in there.
A piece of liver. That is such a gross image, but it makes perfect sense. It looks fleshy and weird and heavy.
It creates this awful thickness in the mouth that is just unappealing. The tongue should be either up or down. It snaps into place. It is basically instant.
So it sounds like NDLT or TH.
The tongue is up behind the teeth. And for vowels, it is usually down flat. You never want to catch it hovering halfway.
So it is essentially teleporting.
Yeah.
One frame, it is on the floor of the mouth, and the very next frame, it is on the roof.
Ideally, yes. The actual physical movement is so fast that the human eye doesn't register the travel time. We just register the result of the movement.
And remember, the tongue is hooked to the back of the lower jaw.
Yeah.
It is just floating in space in there.
Right. It has a strict anchor point deep in the throat. That is another huge mistake people make. They draw it like a separate little creature living inside the mouth.
Like the alien in Alien.
Exactly like that. Don't do that. Keep it rooted.
Okay, so we have the mechanics down. The jaw hinges down. The tongue teleports up and down. Now let us talk about the shapes themselves. The visual alphabet of the mouth. The book lists the vowels A, E, I, O, U as the sounds that generally open the mouth wide.
Right? I, ooh, you. Those are your open shapes. They provide the visual volume of the speech.
But the real structural pillars of dialogue, the actual checkpoints that hold the whole illusion together, are the closed mouth consonants.
Yes, the B, the M, and the P.
And to a slightly lesser extent, the F and the V.
These are entirely non-negotiable. If you miss these closed shapes, the audience literally loses the word. They can't follow the speech.
Let us test this out right now. B, M, P. I am doing it as I speak. My lips absolutely have to touch.
You physically cannot say boy or mom or pop without the lips sealing completely shut. Try it. Try to say mom without your lips touching at all.
Yeah, it sounds like I am at the dentist and my mouth is totally full of gauze.
It breaks the code. And visually, if an animated character says mom but their lips don't close, your brain subconsciously rejects the whole performance.
It looks like really bad dubbing.
It looks completely disconnected from reality.
And what about the F and the V?
For those, the lower lip tucks right under the upper teeth. Uff, V, 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 V. It is a very, very specific shape, and you need to see that physical contact.
Now here is the really technical secret that I found incredibly fascinating. It is not enough to just draw that closed mouth shape. You actually have to hold it there. This leads us directly into the two-frame rule.
Oh, this rule is pure gold for anyone interested in the raw mechanics of perception. This is where biology perfectly meets art.
Break it down for us.
Williams says that in order for the audience to actually read that closed position, the B, the M, or the P, it needs to be on screen for at least 2 consecutive frames.
Let us do the math on that. At 24 frames a second, 2 frames is what, a 1/12 of a second?
It is a blink. It feels like absolutely nothing.
But if it's only 1 frame, 1/24 of a second, it is effectively invisible.
Yes.
Why is that? Why can't our eyes see something that is right there for 1 frame?
Because of what inevitably comes next. Usually a closed consonant is followed immediately by a big vowel.
AH.
That vowel is a big, wide, bright shape. It is incredibly loud, visually speaking, and Williams uses a fantastic word here. He says the vowel will vitiate the consonant.
Vitiate, meaning it spoils it or destroys it?
Exactly. Think of it like a camera flash. The vowel is a massive, bright flash bulb going off. If the consonant is just a tiny, dark flicker that happens from one single frame right before that flash, the flash completely blinds you to it.
You never even saw the flicker.
Your brain wipes it out. The open mouth destroys the short-term memory of the closed mouth.
Yes, so the audience sees the open mouth, and their brain thinks the character just yelled A-A-H. They entirely miss the M sound visually.
So even if the actual audio recording of the actor is incredibly fast, the animator has to cheat the reality.
But they have to force that mouth to stay shut for 2 full frames.
Right, so the brain actually has the processing time to register, okay, that was an M, before the massive explosion of a vowel happens.
This connects perfectly back to what we said earlier about not being too literal. You are actively manipulating time to make it feel more real rather than just being mathematically accurate to the audio track.
Precisely. Animation is entirely about the illusion of reality, not the rigid documentation of it. If you document the exact speed of reality frame by frame, it often looks totally wrong on screen. You have to caricature the timing.
Caricature the timing. I love that. And that leads us perfectly into the next section, which is about giving that dialogue real life, vitality. We don't just want accurate mouths, we want energetic mouths.
We want the pop.
Yes, Williams talks all about the pop. What is it?
The pop is what separates the amateurs from the seasoned pros. It is all about visual contrast. The core advice here is do not cushion into a vowel.
Now, we definitely need to explain cushioning for our listeners.
Right. So cushioning, which is also called easing or slow in, slow out, is a really fundamental principle of general animation. And usually it is a very good thing.
Like if you are animating an arm raising up.
Exactly. You want that arm to start slow, speed up in the middle, and then slow down naturally as it stops. It gives the limb weight. It makes things look organic.
But you were saying for speech, this easing is actually the enemy.
It is the absolute enemy. If you cushion a mouth opening, if you ease slowly into the vowel, it means the mouth is just drifting open. Visually, that looks terribly mushy.
It looks like the character is slurring their speech.
Yeah.
Like they have had way too much to drink.
Exactly. Hello. It lacks any sort of punch. William says you want to hit the dialogue accent. Bang.
He uses a really great example of the word baseball. Baseball.
Right, so imagine the timing of that word. You have the closed B, then you have the open I. If you slowly drift from the B to the I, it completely lacks energy.
It feels weak.
He says you should go from the tightly closed B straight to the wide open I, pop it open instantly.
And he also mentions hitting the first vowel significantly harder than the second one.
That goes right back to phrasing. You say baseball, not baseball. You have to accent the main beat of the word. You hit that first vowel big, you open the mouth even wider than you think you need to, and then you cushion back from it.
You recoil from the big shape.
Yes. So it is explosion and then settle, not settle and then explosion.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It gives the speech a real crispness, makes the character look articulate, awake, and really decisive.
There is another amazing visual trick he mentions here to really sell that explosive pop, and it involves the overall shape of the face, compress and expand.
Trust and expand, which honestly sounds like something you would do to a zip file on your computer. But in animation, this is all about squash and stretch.
This is absolutely crucial for broad vocal accents. Imagine a character yelling hey or wow.
Wow.
Right, to make that wow really land visually. You don't just open the mouth really wide. Before the mouth opens, you compress the face. You actively squash it down.
Like you are coiling a tight spring.
Yes. You squash the mouth small, you maybe purse the lips tightly together, you squint the eyes, you compress everything vertically, and then pop.
You stretch it all open into the giant vowel.
That rapid visual contrast between the squashed face and the stretched face is what creates a visual explosion. It tricks the eye into actually feeling the sheer volume of the scream.
And he really emphasizes that you have to stretch the whole face, right? Not just the lips themselves.
The entire bottom of the face needs to stretch downward. The jaw goes down, the cheeks stretch out, the chin drops heavily. A really common fault, he points out, is that novice animators will just open the mouth hole, but the actual jawline and the chin don't move enough.
So it looks like a stiff plastic mask with just a hole opening and closing in the middle of it.
Exactly. You have to distend the face. It sounds slightly painful to distend the face, but that is exactly what gives it that rubbery, lively quality we all love in classic hand fundamentals.
Okay, so we have got the pop, we have got the facial compression, but we still have to figure out what exactly to animate in a complex sentence. We talked earlier about not doing every single letter of the school teacher mistake, but how do you actually decide what to keep and what to throw away?
This brings us to the section on simplification, boiling it down.
This is where the real artistry comes in, I think.
You have to feel the word rather than just spell it.
Williams brings up a brilliant analogy here about watching foreign films.
Yes, dubbing. We have all seen a dubbed movie, maybe an old martial arts flick, or a spaghetti western where the lips definitely don't match perfectly, but it still sort of works.
You accept it anyway. Why is that?
Because the dubbing actors and the editors usually try their hardest to just hit the first vowel and the last accent of the phrase.
They match the start and they match the end.
And they completely gloss over the middle. And guess what? Our brains just accept it. We see the start matches, we see the end matches, and our brains happily fill in all the rest.
Oh, animators need to be doing the exact same thing.
Exactly. You don't need to meticulously draw the middle of the sandwich if the bread on the outside is really good.
Let us look at some of the specific examples he gives in the book, because walking through these really clarify the concept for me. Take the word fortune. F-O-R-T-U-N-E.
A novice animator looks at that and thinks, okay, well, far is one distinct shape and tune is another distinct shape, so I need to open the mouth twice. For, tune, open, open.
Williams says no, absolutely not.
He says, do not open twice. Use two positions, sure, but go from one to the other smoothly without closing. For tune, it is one continuous evolution of the mouth shape. The mouth should not shut in the middle of the word.
What about a really common word like hello?
Same exact principle. Don't go hey-low with two distinct open shapes. Go straight from the he shape seamlessly into the layo shape. One single smooth movement.
And then there is the word memory. This was the one that really clicked for me.
Memory. It has three distinct syllables. Memory. But if you open the mouth three separate times, memory, it just looks terrible.
It looks like that nutcracker again. Chomp, chomp, chomp.
It looks way too busy and super distracting. Williams suggests doing memory, one big open on mem, and then you actually close the mouth en route to the read.
You visually skip the middle of a row entirely.
You still hear it on the soundtrack, but you absolutely don't need to see a separate jaw movement for it.
That is the foreign film technique, perfectly applied to drawing. You are tricking the eye into seeing way more detail than is actually there on the screen just by focusing on the really big needs.
Visual simplicity reads better than literal accuracy. That sentence should be tattooed on every single animator's arm. If you try to catch every syllable, you just get a flickering, jittery mess. If you boil it down to the main shapes, you get beautiful clarity.
Okay, so we know what shapes to draw and what shapes to ignore. Now comes the question that apparently causes actual, literal fights in editing rooms. The mechanics of sync, the timing.
Ah, yes, the great debate, level sync versus leading sync.
Let us carefully define those terms for the listener. Level sync means the picture happens at the exact same frame as the sound.
Right. So frame 10 has the audio sound pop. So frame 10 shows the character's mouth popping open, mathematically perfect alignment.
And leading sync means the picture actually happens before the sound.
So frame 8 shows the mouth popping open visually, but the audio sound doesn't actually hit until frame 10. The visual leads the audio.
Now, Williams talks about the tyranny of editors in this chapter.
Sure.
What is that all about?
Well, back in the day of physical film cutting, editors discovered this really crude rule of thumb. They suggested that the picture should always lead the sound by exactly 2 frames, universally.
Why 2 frames specifically?
Because technically sound travels slower than light, so in a massive theater, the idea was that if the picture is slightly ahead, it feels more natural to the people sitting all the way in the back row.
That sounds somewhat logical.
It does, but mostly the editors just loved it because it was an incredibly simple rule to apply. Just shift everything 2 frames to the left and I can go home early today.
A universal lazy solution, just move it 2 frames.
But it created a literal disease in the industry where animators were forced to just blindly shift everything without thinking. Williams absolutely hates this. He calls it thinking sideways.
Because you aren't actually looking at the artistic performance anymore, you are just doing simple math. You are shifting the timeline on a grid without watching the character's face.
Right. And his ultimate verdict is that there isn't just one magic rule. Sometimes level sync is actually the best choice. Sometimes 1 frame ahead is best. Sometimes 2 or even 3 frames works depending on the action.
He does concede, though, that level sync is the only real sync. Logically speaking, sound and movement happen simultaneously in the real physical world.
Physics-wise, yes. When I speak to you right now, my lips move at the exact moment the sound comes out. But perception-wise in animation, he admits that animating 1 frame ahead is generally the safest bet you can make.
Why is 1 frame ahead safer than perfect level sync?
Because of the massive risk of being late. Williams says, whatever you do, never be late. If you are even one single frame late, say the sound pop happens on frame 10, but the mouth doesn't open until frame 11, it looks horrific.
It looks like a really bad kung fu movie dub.
Exactly. The human brain instantly spots late synchronization. It feels broken. But if the mouth opens one frame early on frame 9, the brain totally accepts it.
Why does early work but late doesn't?
Because early reads is natural anticipation. We naturally and unconsciously tighten our facial muscles right before we push air out to speak. So if the visual is slightly ahead, it feels incredibly organic.
So lead by one frame is the basic safety zone. Now let us get into the weeds on stealing frames, because this concept sounds like straight up cheating, but I absolutely love the logic behind it.
Oh, it is cheating. It is
You're right.
glorious, necessary cheating. Let us say you have a character saying the word mother, but the actor, let us say, it is very fast-talking comedian, says it so incredibly quickly that the end sound only exists on the audio track for one single frame, frame 10.
And we already firmly established the 2-frame rule earlier. One frame is visually invisible. We absolutely need 2 frames for that closed M to be seen by the audience.
Right. So now you have a major math problem. You have 1 frame of audio, but you desperately need 2 frames of video. Where do you get the extra frame? You can't just add it after frame 10, because then you are pushing the following vowel back to frame 12.
And then you are late.
Yeah.
And being late is the absolute cardinal sin.
Exactly. So where do you get the magical missing frame? You steal it from the past.
You go backwards to frame 9.
Frame 9 was probably silence, or maybe the tail end of the previous word. You force the mouth shut entirely on frame 9, and you hold it shut through frame 10. Now you have your 2 frames.
So the character physically closes their mouth before they even start speaking.
Which actually looks so much better anyway. It looks exactly like anticipation. It looks like they are consciously gathering their thought before violently releasing it. You must steal from the front of the beat, never ever from the back. You need to hit the incoming vowel right on the nose.
Hit the vowel on the nose. That really seems to be the overriding mantra here. The vowel is the anchor point.
The vowel is the actual event. The consonant is just the shape, but the vowel is the emotional release.
All right, so we have thoroughly covered the mouth, the tongue, the shapes, the timing. But a character isn't just a floating pair of lips on a blank screen. They have a head, a body, a specific attitude. Which brings us to section 6, acting with dialogue.
This is where we finally graduate from pure mechanics to actual performance. And it really starts with accents, specifically head accents.
Williams talks extensively about the old masters of animation at Disney and how they specifically timed their head movements. They almost never moved the head at the exact same time as the mouth opening.
No, they didn't, because that looks incredibly mechanical. If the head nods sharply at the exact millisecond the mouth opens, it looks like a cheap wooden puppet with a single string pulling both the jaw and the neck simultaneously.
It makes the performance look shallow.
It does. It looks simpler, less alive.
So what did those masters do differently to make it look so organic?
They purposely put the sharp physical actions, the actual head accents, a full 3 or 4 frames ahead of the sound modulation.
3 or 4 frames ahead. That is a really significant lead time. That is like 1/6 of a second before the sound.
It is a big gap, but it creates a beautiful sequence of events. First, the character anticipates maybe the head drops down slightly. Second comes the head accent, the head shoots upward. And then third, the mouth pops open and the actual sound comes out.
So the psychological order is essentially move first, then speak.
Essentially, yes. It creates a remarkably fluid, organic flow. It visually signals to the audience I am about to speak, and then the speech actually happens. It completely prevents the problem of hitting it all at once. It brilliantly layers the physical performance.
And he breaks down different specific types of accents here too. Hard accents versus soft accents. This distinction was really helpful for me in visualizing character attitude.
This is acting 01, basically. A hard accent is like the word no, violently shouted in anger. The head goes down or up sharply, and it violently bounces back.
It hits a solid wall.
Exactly. And no, there is a rigid physical recoil.
And how does a soft accent differ?
A soft accent is like a drawn-out nu. The head goes down or up and just smoothly continues in that direction. It drifts. The entire movement resolves very slowly.
It is amazing how just describing that head movement completely changes how I hear the word played back in my own head. One is hitting a brick wall, and the other is sliding down a slide.
It is all body language. We interpret the emotional tone of a voice heavily through the physical movement of the head. If the head bounces sharply, the voice sounds harsh and percussive. If the head drifts slowly, the voice sounds soothing or maybe pleading.
He also gives a really brilliant example of selecting importance with phrasing accents. The example line is, well, at last you're home.
Right, so a really bad animator just robotically nods the head on every single word. Well, nod at nod, last nod, you're not home, nod.
That is just a bobblehead doll on a dashboard.
It is terrible. It completely destroys any subtext or meaning in the line. You have to carefully select the big beats. Well, a big head accent, you're home. Another big head accent.
You physically hit the main vowels, and you just let the body gloss over the rest.
You let the head seamlessly ride through all the little connecting words.
And sometimes, the body actually takes over the performance completely. There is this one great example he breaks down of a character saying, I'll slip into something cooler.
Ah, yes, a classic femme fatale type line delivery.
And Williams analyzes the movement so closely, she doesn't just playfully flap her lips. The actual acting, the real performance, is done entirely with her shoulder.
Yes. As she turns away, her shoulder slowly goes up, it anticipates downward, and then shoots up incredibly fast for the main vocal accent of the word.
So the shoulder is literally punching the dialogue accent.
The shoulder actually is the voice in that moment. The overall body attitude perfectly echoes the facial attitude. Williams notes that if the body mechanics are perfect, you can almost go entirely without the mouth animation.
The audience feels the exact line delivery purely through the posture.
They do.
Which perfectly brings us to the absolute pinnacle of this entire chapter, the ultimate secret. And to really understand the immense weight of this specific story, we have to firmly establish who was actually involved here.
We definitely have to set the stage for this one, because we are talking about Milt Kahl.
For the uninitiated, who exactly was Milt Kahl?
He was one of Walt Disney's legendary 9 old men. He was widely considered the Michelangelo of Disney animation. He animated Shere Khan in The Jungle Book. He did The Prince in Sleeping Beauty Pinocchio. The man was an absolute titan of the industry.
And he was famously critical, right?
Incredibly critical and unbelievably skilled. He could draw absolutely anything perfectly.
So Richard Williams, who was obviously an animation legend in his own right, nervously asks him, Milt, is there a real secret to lip sync? Is there one specific thing that unlocks the whole illusion?
And you would completely expect Milt Kahl to launch into a dense anatomical lecture, right? You expect him to detail the masseter muscle or the precise fulcrum of the jaw hinge.
But instead, he physically lights up. He gets super excited. He yells out, you want the secret? I'll tell you the real secret. And then he points to, of all things, a man on television with a green sock on his hand.
He emphatically points directly to Jim Henson, the creator of The Muppets.
Now we really have to contextualize this moment in history. At this specific time, animation and puppetry were entirely different, vastly separated worlds. Animators were doing high fine art. Puppeteers were, well, they were just guys crouching behind a couch with socks.
Exactly. It was a very stark hierarchy. But Milt Kahl points at Henson and says he's an absolute genius. He understands something fundamental that no puppeteer ever understood before.
And what was that massive insight? Because technically speaking, a Muppet can't articulate speech well at all.
Right. Just think about Kermit the Frog. He literally has no lips. He physically cannot form an F or a B or a TH shape. He just has a rigid slit that hinges open and shut.
So technically, he absolutely cannot match the subtle audio shapes.
Not even close. But Kahl argued forcefully that Henson did a significantly better job conveying speech than most animators did with all of their vast technical drawing resources.
Why? How is that possible?
Because Jim Henson crucially progressed the action.
Progress the action. What does that specifically mean in this animation context?
It means he was always physically going somewhere with the overall movement while the character spoke. He didn't just stand the puppet there statically flapping its rigid jaw. The entire head, the entire body actively moved forward or drastically changed posture continuously through the line of dialogue.
So it is not stop moving, then speak, then move again. It is actively speak while moving.
Precisely. Milt Kahl gives his own brilliant example from animating on Disney's Song of the South. He animated the fox telling the rabbit, I'm gonna roast you.
A pretty terrifying moment for a kid's movie.
Very. And Kahl realized while animating it that he hardly moved the fox's actual mouth at all. He didn't obsessively focus on the lip shapes.
What did he focus on instead?
He heavily focused on physically pushing the fox's entire face viciously toward the rabbit. He progressed the fox forcefully right through the clenched teeth. The pure aggression of the line was entirely in the relentless forward motion of the massive head, not the tiny flapping of the jaw.
I progressed it as he spoke. That is the exact quote from Kahl.
That is the ultimate secret. Do not just flap jaws in place. Actually, go somewhere. If a character says, "I love you," maybe they slowly lean in. If they scream, "Get away," maybe they violently recoil. The physical movement through the dialogue is what actually sells the life of the character.
It is the stark difference between a ventriloquist dummy, which was always incredibly creepy, specifically because only the mouth moves, and a real living being where speech is a massive, full-body event.
Precisely. The mouth is essentially just the exhaust pipe for the massive engine of the body. The whole car actually has to move for it to make sense.
Wow. The mouth is just the exhaust pipe. That is a truly profound way to visualize it. The raw energy comes directly from the engine. The body and the emotion and the actual sound is just the physical byproduct of that energy.
Exactly. It completely reframes how you look at character performance.
So we have covered a truly massive amount of ground here today. Let us try to effectively recap the main takeaways for the listener who is probably currently trying to visualize their own tongue movements in the mirror.
First and foremost, stop being the school teacher. Do not over-articulate every single sound. Think in broader phrases, not individual letters. Smudge the words together naturally.
Second, strictly respect the bodily mechanics. The skull is totally fixed. Jaw hinges downward. The tongue violently teleports and never gracefully floats.
And if you have a closed consonant, a B, an M, or a P, give it 2 full frames. Let the audience actually see that firm closure or the massive vowel that follows will completely destroy it.
Third, bring the vitality. Vigorously pop those big vowels. Compress and squash the face heavily before you wildly stretch it open. Do not be slow and mushy.
Fourth, simplify everything. Be the clever foreign film director. Boil the complex word down to its core shape. Memory, not memore.
And finally, the big secret for Milk Ball. Progress the action. Do not just act with the tiny mouth. Physically move through the line. Relentlessly drive the character forward.
It really is a masterclass in a single chapter.
Yeah.
And it fundamentally makes you appreciate the art form so much more deeply. You quickly realize that truly good animation isn't just about painstakingly drawing pretty pictures. It is profoundly about understanding human psychology, dense anatomy, and impeccable timing.
It really is. And just before we go, I want to leave the listener with one final lingering image from the book. We talked about Jim Carrey's rubber face and the Queen's tight lips. But Williams brings up another really fascinating actor, Vincent Price.
Ah, yes, the absolute horror legend, the iconic voice of Thriller.
Williams notes that Vincent Price was consistently the most fun actor to lip sync to.
Why is that?
Because he had a wildly mobile face. Williams actually describes Price as looking somewhat like a fish from the front when he spoke.
A fish? That is not exactly flattering.
He totally meant it as a high compliment, though. It meant his face was incredibly flexible and expressive. He didn't just use his lips, he used the far corners of his mouth, his deep cheeks, his whole neck.
But the real key, right?
Yes, the real key was that Price had the immense theatrical confidence to talk incredibly slowly.
He didn't rush his lines ever.
He took his sweet time. He deliciously spread out his dialogue.
Hello, Richard, I'm a friendly monster.
And because he slowed the actual pacing down, the animator could really have a fantastic time stretching and playing with those bizarre shapes. He generously gave the animator the actual physical time to draw all the pop and crackle of the performance.
It is brilliant. So here's our final challenge to you, the listener. For the rest of the day today, just watch people talk. I mean, don't be weird or creepy about it. Do not stare at their mouths from 2 inches away.
Please definitely don't do that.
But just naturally notice them. Who rushes nervously? Who confidently takes their time? Who is a mobile fish? And who is a stiff ventriloquist dummy?
Do they show their top teeth predominantly or their bottom teeth? Do they lazily smudge their words?
And definitely look closely for those elephant juice moments. You will rapidly start to realize exactly how much your own brain is just silently filling in the visual gaps for you all day long. It is an incredibly fascinating world once you start actively looking at the hidden mechanics of it.
It really is. Well, that is it for this extremely deep dive into Chapter 15 dialogue. We will definitely see you next time as we continue through the book.
Keep closely observing everything around you.